Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, I just want to be the first to say congratulations, although I'm sure you say congratulations yourself many times in the last few days. But on last week's bold prediction show, I said, listen, this is the week I'm going to let you win. And Tony, guess what? It happened. You won. Did I let you win? Listen, I don't know. It's impossible to say. But, if I did let you win, it would look a lot like the only one that I got correct was the one that you gave me. That would look a lot like that. So, hey, listen, the important thing is that you won. And just not to ask too many questions. You should feel good about yourself. This was a big one. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, Tom, we don't like to live in the past. We don't like to talk about the past on this show. But no, you are not the first to congratulate me. Yes, I was the very first to congratulate me on my big win from last week's bold predictions. And yes, Tom, the only one that you got right was the one that I gave you, which after the fact, we're like, holy crap, did we get that one? And as we started last week, the newest thing that we just decided on a whim there is that to provide a bold prediction for each other that is kind of like an olive branch. It's not super bold, but it's kind of a free space, if you will. And the one I gave Tom was that CJ Stroud would complete at least 2 passes in a row, which that's setting a bar way too low moving forward. But then after the game, it's like, well, did he? And we had to go back and look, and he did. The one that you gave me, Tom, was Ohio State has a rushing play of 6 yards, which they also barely got. So, yeah, but that was the only one that you got on the day. But of course, no stakes. As we said, it wasn't, there's no road game coming up this week. So you could just go with the flow, allow your feelings to just don't even worry about it. Just throw some stuff out there, see if it sticks. And Tom, for you, nothing stuck.
Nothing stuck. And although some things stuck when the wind blew it to you and then you could not get it off of your body because the wind was blowing so hard. So some of that stuff stuck, garbage bags, what have you. But yes, nothing stuck in the bold predictions. I did not predict an 80-mile-an-hour gust of wind, which if I had, that feels like that definitely would have been a 3-pointer, maybe a 4-pointer. So that's on me. Gotta take the forecast into account a little more next week.
That could have been a 5 or a 10, honestly, Tom. And going back over the scores, I realized we missed a 5-pointer from a couple of weeks ago. Not one of us, but from poster AZ Nate. One of his 5-point bold prediction was that Zach Harrison would have an interception this season.
Oh, nice!
And that did happen a couple of weeks ago. So I'm sure he is, as I will eventually tally the totals, he's going to be probably at the top because of that one. But I hit at least 2 last week, which is all I would need. One of them was Ohio State fails to convert a 4th down. I think they did that twice. And then I had Ibuka, Xavier Johnson, or Caleb Johnson rush for a touchdown. We know Emeka did that and was never out of bounds, despite what Tom, I'm probably sure, would say. No, his foot was totally out of bounds on that running play. It was not. And so then, of course, we each got a point from each other. So I finished with 3 on a day. Tom, you finished with 1. Our beloved posters, there was a 2-pointer in this one, and maybe looking back, the 2 points was excessive. This was from Buckeye for Life 20. He went with under 35.5 total points scored in the game, which he hit, being 28 points scored in that game, and hit very handily. At the time, the line was 39 or something. So you wouldn't think the under would be that. 35.5. Looking back now, of course, but this is on like a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday when this is put out. So that was the only one that the posters got of the 15 or so that I chose. So I still beat them. Tom, they beat you.
Yeah, they didn't make it easy, but I let them beat me as well because, again, no stakes. So listen, it's all about making people feel good about themselves. And great job, listeners. Great job, Buckeye Huddle members. Fantastic.
Thank you, Stuart Smalley. So let's get this show underway. Hey, welcome to our bold predictions show. I have 7 very bold predictions. Tom, I'm sure you have your own version of those as well. Would you like to go first, or since I won, I guess I should go first? Is that the...
Yeah, your honor.
Yeah, okay. So my first one here, Tom, and I could go with any of these because they're all quality. I'm going to say Jack Sawyer. Been very quiet, and people are wondering what's going on with Jack Sawyer. I'm saying 2 impact plays this week, which could be tackle for loss, sack, interception, forced fumble, fumble recovery, pass breakup. He's had 4 tackles for loss and I think 2 pass breakups this year. So he's had 6, we'll call them impact plays this season in 9 games. I'm saying he's going to have 2 in 1 game.
Yeah, that's one where that seems extremely possible that will happen this week. But if you're calling for him to do something twice that he has done less than once per game, I think I pretty much have to allow that one. So yes, there is your first one in the books, Tony. All right, my first one. Let's go with there's only been 1 game this season where Ohio State has had 3 receivers with 85 yards or more in this 1 game, and I'm going to say they do that this weekend. The only time they did it was against Toledo, and that required that long Jaden Ballard touchdown right at the end of the game to do it. But I think they're going to be throwing the ball around quite a bit this weekend to try and get C.J. Stroud back on the back on the Heisman track in terms of numbers and all that. So I will say yes, 3 receivers with 85 yards or more receiving this weekend.
And is that any receivers, right? Any players with 85 yards receiving?
Yes, not just 3 wide receivers. As much as they've been throwing to the running backs, I'm not leaning on the running backs there, but theoretically, if here in the year of the tight end, Cade Stover puts up an 85-yarder, yes, that would count.
Okay. Again, this is one of those where it has only happened once this season, and you mentioned the extremes that it had to happen to make it happen. So I will allow this one. I'm with this. Again, it's unfortunate there's no bickering yet, but I feel like there's still time.
Speaking of bickering, what's your next one?
My second one here is, I'm going to go with this, Tom. There have only been 2 tight ends this season for Ohio State who have receptions of at least 15 yards. I'm going to say 2 of them do it in this game. Mitch Rossi has 1 from a couple weeks ago. And then, Cade Stover obviously has 1. I'm saying 2 of them will do it in this game.
Yeah, this is one where I'm a little annoyed because this is a good one because they could very well have done this last weekend because they threw to Cade Stover a few times. They threw to G. Scott at one point, and that would have been at least a 10-yard gain. So yes, this feels like this is very, very likely to hit. But also, if only 2 guys have done it all season, you'd have to say calling for 2 guys to do it in 1 game would be bold. So yes, I will have to allow this one as well.
Now, see, Tom, this is what happens when I prepare for the show.
Yeah, this is you're starting to game the system very well. This is impressive. This is like the Raptors have been testing the fence. It's like, he's learning. He's figuring it out.
Clever girl.
So, Tony, speaking of learning, I have found every possible way to fail in the 220 thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift things just a little bit. Instead of 220, I'm going to say 180 yards rushing for Ohio State, 375 yards passing for Ohio State. So I'm giving up 40 yards rushing, but I'm adding 155 yards of passing to make up for it. Your thoughts?
I was waiting for the 220 because I'm sure you've seen Indiana's run defense as well. They're holding everybody to like 4 yards a carry, and they're giving up like 180 yards a game to a lot of teams, but it's taking a lot of carries to get there. So I didn't expect a 220 from you, but you have raised the stakes with the 375. This feels to me, this is the ceiling, not the ceiling, but this is where I think both lines should be for a good Ohio State team that wants to both show that they can run the ball and also get back to throwing the stinking football. So I'm not going to say no. I'm going to allow this one. I think this is a very good one because both are quite possible, and yet it's still bold because those are both, Ohio State has not run the ball well, as we know, although they did go for over 200 yards last week. I don't know that we see C.J. Stroud running the ball at all this week, other than scrambles on, a 3rd down or something. But 375 feels, which do you feel better about? I kind of feel better about the 375 than the 180.
I do too. Yeah, I think I feel better about the 375. But the reason I picked 375 is because they've only done this twice. They've only hit 180 in a game where they've had 375 yards passing or more twice. And one of those was the Michigan State game. They ran for 237. and they passed for 377. So it's, basically hitting that 375 right on the nose. The only time they did this comfortably all season long was Toledo. That was 281 yards rushing, 482 yards passing. I am not expecting 760 yards of total offense from Ohio State on Saturday. So, I think this is a reasonable, like you said, this is about what you're going to, against a decent run defense and a not very good pass defense. Mm-hmm. They're going to want to put up big numbers for CJ Stroud. And I think he's going to be able to. And then the question is just, they also are going to want to run the ball, and how do they balance that? And because you're going to want to put up, I'm sure they would love to have CJ Stroud throw for 500 yards and 9 touchdowns, but they also want to show that they can run the ball, and that's going to be kind of the balance they're trying to strike. This feels about like where this maybe ends up.
Yeah, like if you're only looking at one side of it, you're only looking at the rushing yards, and you're thinking, yeah, that 180 is about what they should do. And you only look at the passing yards, 375, yeah, that's about what they should do. So yeah, that's a good one. I can't disagree with that one, unfortunately. Tom, my third one is interesting to me. It's an Emeka Egbuka punt return bold prediction. Do you know how many punt returns he has this season?
It's not that many. They've only returned 5 as a team, I know, because I looked that up at one point. How many does he have personally?
He's got 9.
Okay, well then maybe I was looking at the wrong.
Yeah.
You know what? They have 11. Sorry, they have 11 punt returns on the season. The opponents have 5. I was looking at the wrong line on the stat sheet.
He's got 9 in 9 games. He has exactly 1 in every single game this season. That's not my prediction. I'm not going to do anything with that. His long this season is 18 yards, which happened last week against Northwestern. I'm saying a long punt return of at least 25 yards in this one.
See, I was all ready for you. This is a terrible show because I was all ready for you to say 18, and then long of 18. So I say he's going to get 20, and I was going to say I'm going to need at least 25, and you said 25, and it's like, well, I could be really disingenuous and say, Tony, now I need 30. So Tony, now I need 30, but you can talk me down to 25 if you work at it a little bit.
Yeah, Tom, I'm gonna have to stick on that 25. I think I can get that. It reminds me of the time my wife and I went to some flea market down in Southwest Ohio, and she ended up buying a tricycle, and she's like, I talked the guy down to like 25, and then when we get it in the car and you look at there's a price tag underneath that said 20. So
wow, she's really good at this. New high score. Tremendous.
So yeah, I'm going to stick with that 25, and we'll see if it happens. It may have to happen on the one punt return that he gets, because that is apparently all he is allowed in this game.
That is a really funny, that's one of those, I would like to know in college football history, what is the most consecutive games a player has had with exactly one punt return? And that's not a stat that's going to show up on any sort of stat sheet anywhere, but that's just one of those really fun statistical oddities that you should bring that up to Jerry and Mike and let them know for the game notes, because that's a really fun one. All right, so yes, 25 yards for Emeka Egbuka on a punt return. All right, Tony, I'm going to go back to the well on this one. This is one I had last week. Did it work out? Well, you can count the number of touchdowns they scored on your fingers and let me know if this one worked out for me last week. But Tony, it's going to work out for me for sure this week. Ohio State scores touchdowns on plays of between 1 and 7 yards, more than 7 but less than 17, between 17 and 34, and more than 34. So same thing as last week. Between 1 and 7 inclusive, 8 to 16 inclusive, 17 and 34 inclusive, and 35 plus.
Unfortunately, since it's been grandfathered in and it has not hit yet, we kind of have to allow this. This feels like, I guess some of the others, this should happen, but it's the 3 of the 4 seem inevitable. It's just getting that 4th one, whichever that one may be, the 17 to 34 or the 8 to 16 or something like that. So,
the one that I think might be the low-key tricky one, 8 and 16. That feels like the one, if this doesn't hit, because they'll score one on, 3rd and goal from the 1 and they'll run it in, or 3rd and goal from the 2. So that one feels like they're going to get that one. they're going to get a 35-yarder probably. You're going to hit a big pass play at some point. And then, 17 and 34, you might get a field goal in there. You might get, they have thrown into the end zone from there. They've run into the end zone from there. It's just that 8 to 16, it's a relatively narrow band. And that's the one that feels like if I don't hit this one, that's going to be the one that gets me.
You're right, Tom. It is very difficult to score from between the 8 and 16. My next bold prediction, Ohio State scores a touchdown from between the 8 and 16. No, I'm just kidding.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, my actual bold prediction, it does revolve around the end zone. How about this, Tom? Let me know how you feel. Ohio State keeps Indiana out of the end zone.
I mean, I looked at some of the scoring models for this game and projections, and it has them scoring 11 points on some of the advanced statistical models. So it's like you're picking them to score one touchdown less than, which doesn't feel all that bold.
Well, it doesn't feel that bold.
How about you have them? You want to pick them to score 3 points or less? I mean, last week I think I got 2 points for predicting a shutout. So yes, I got 2 points for predicting a shutout last week. So would you like to say holds Indiana to 3 points or less for 1 point? I would be okay with that, but keeps them out of the end zone is just in a game where they're supposed to only score once. That doesn't feel that bold.
If I tell you that Ohio State has kept a team out of the end zone just once in the past 3 seasons, how does that change your thoughts? Does it make you angry?
It does, and because I know how many of those games were the one stupid play or the one stupid drive. I mean, last year's Indiana game, they completely shut down Indiana the entire game, but Indiana scored a touchdown, and it was just the one stupid drive. And Iowa, I think, just scored. Did Iowa just score on the one? Yeah, Iowa just scored on a defensive touchdown, and Northwestern scored on the one stupid drive. So this is annoying because you know deep in your heart that this is nonsense and this is not bold at all. But based on historical precedent, I probably do have to allow this, which I really don't care for at all.
Again, these are the worst and best kinds. I will take it.
All right. Tony, Ohio State has forced 16 turnovers in 9 games. So that's just under 2 per game. They force 4 or more, double that, 4 or more turnovers this weekend.
Yeah, that's a big number. And even before I start looking and say, I'm inclined to allow this one because 4, again, as I said, is a big number. But do you know how many times they have forced at least 4 turnovers this season?
I think it's going to be twice, right? They had 6 against Iowa, 4 against Penn State, and that should be it, right? I'm just going through right now. 0-0-2-0, 0-0-2-1-2-1, 6-4-0.
What you're saying, Tom, is that you're boldly predicting them to do something they've done twice in the last 3 games.
With this being so not bold, I'm sure you'd be willing to trade me your last bold prediction for this bold prediction. No? Okay, no. Good. Well, then we're settled. No. Fantastic.
And the funny thing about it is that's just good defense and timely defense. And you can't say, I'm going to boldly predict four turnovers and be like, yeah, but they've done it the last 3 weeks. It's like, well, each of those is a bold prediction. Each of those, to expect that to happen is not right. Now, I will say probably, and we will allow this, next week, if we try it again, we might have to ramp that up to 5. Or, you move it to a 2-pointer at 5 or something like that, because 3 and 4 weeks, now you've got some, and it's crazy that there were no turnovers last week against Northwestern. That is still insane.
Yeah, in those conditions, to not have a turnover is, those are the conditions where you would expect a 6 turnover game, and then there was a 0 turnover game. That's one that I still, at the end of the game, I was thinking, am I forgetting a turnover? And then I checked the box score, and I was like, is that really right? It seemed impossible that was correct. But yes, 0 turnovers last week in Hurricane Ditka. So yes, that was and Tony, if they got 0 last week, this should be a 17-pointer to predict them to get 4 on a relatively calm, not disastrous day.
No, you're right. Getting Connor Bazelak back, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing for me, because he will throw interceptions. I think he's thrown 9 on the season, but maybe having a quarterback returning is better for you because he's more confident than a guy who doesn't throw the ball and isn't going to take any chances. So good on you. And we're not counting turnovers on downs. This is just fumbles, muffs, interceptions.
Yes,
correct?
This just has to be turnovers. Yes, turnovers. Yes.
Okay, that sounds like something I would try to pull.
It does, doesn't it? I would never, Tony. I would never.
My last one-pointer. Dallin Hayden and Chip Trainum combine for at least 2 carries that total at least 40 yards. If you get what I'm saying, there will be 2 carries that they have that total 40 yards at least.
Dallin Hayden and Chip Trainum, 2 carries for 40 that total 40 yards. What's difficult here is this feels like it's not that bold because those guys are almost certainly going to get extensive run in this game. But then I thought that last week too, and then obviously we both had big Chip Trainum days planned or projected out, and then he had one snap and 0 carries. So
I'm 0 for 3 on Chip Trainum predictions this year, I think.
Yeah, you should keep going with those. I'm gonna say let's make it 44, and we'll call it a deal. Two rushes, correct? Not just plays, rushes. 2 rushes from Dallin Hayden and or Chip Trainum, totaling at least 44 yards.
How about this? In honor of the show, we make it 43. We just invert the 34, make it 43. Bing, bang, boom.
What about in the honor of the show? We do just a little more and go to 45. No, that's fine. 43 is fine. All right, 2 for 43. All right. My last one-pointer, Tony, and frankly, this maybe we can argue if you don't like my 2-pointer later, we can talk about this being a 2-pointer. Something that's happened only once this year. Kyle McCord throws a touchdown pass.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those where this should happen, but because it has only happened once, and we have projected other Kyle McCord things throughout the season, and the games didn't turn out that way. This game should absolutely turn out that way. Kyle McCord should play the 4th quarter, and they do want him to throw, but where are those passes coming from? So that's the thing to me. So yeah, we can allow this one for sure. Kyle McCord throws a touchdown pass. Now, Tom, I will add that I believe one of the 10-point predictions from the posters is that it happens left-handed.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will limit myself just to right-handed throws from Kyle McCord. That's fine. That's one where it feels like this is the kind of game where Ohio State should be up by 35, 40 points, and you should see Kyle McCord get a full quarter of action or more, and you should see him throwing the ball a little bit because he hasn't been able to throw it that much this year. But all year we've seen Ryan Day sticking with CJ Stroud a little longer than you'd expect. And then by the time Kyle McCord comes in, they're just trying to get the heck out of there healthy. So yeah, this if you wanted to swap one of my multi-pointers for this one, I would understand why. But I think on its face it's a 1-pointer, but because of some circumstances, it might be less likely to happen than a typical 1-pointer.
Yeah, I can understand wanting to look at your 2 and 3 pointers and consider them as ones as well.
So hateful.
Well, it's been a relatively friendly show, so we gotta manufacture some drama here. My first 2-pointer, and now we get into the realm of let's see what we think. Indiana's low mark of yards per play in a game this year is 3 yards per play. That happened against Michigan. I am saying Ohio State holds Indiana to under 3 yards per play in at least 3 quarters this week. And then when you look at Ohio State in terms of what they have held teams to in yards per play, I could tell you how many games they've had where, and again, I can't break it down by quarter. I can only give you games. They held the Iowa 2.68 yards per play is the only time they've held an opponent under 3 yards per play.
So I'm now pulling up the Michigan-Indiana box score to see how many quarters Michigan held Indiana under.
That's fine. Good look. Yep. I can do the same thing for Iowa if you would like.
I hate the way Michigan's website is laid out. That's all right.
Oh, that's terrible.
All right, so let's see. Quarter number 1. Let's see. Quarter number 1, Indiana had 10 plays, 19 plays for. So they would have done it in quarter number 1. Sorry, they don't actually have this laid out as a stat. It's just you have to do the math in your head. So 27. So the Indiana was over 3 in quarter number 2. Indiana was well under in quarter number 3. Oh, sorry, that's quarter number 4. I missed one.
I bet they're over.
No, they're going to be under 3 yards per play in 3 of 4 quarters against Michigan. So, Tony, I'm going to need a 4 of 4, or I'm going to need like a 2.5. For 2 points, Tony. I will remind you, sir. I will remind you, you are under oath.
If I go 4 quarters, could I get 3 points for that?
Depends on what your other multi-pointer is. Because I'm not giving you 2 3-pointers.
I don't want to tell you what my 3-pointer is, but I can maneuver it to be a 2.
Let's hear what your 3-pointer is, and then
Okay.
Okay. So I'll give you mine. Ohio State outgains Indiana by 250 yards in the first half.
That's pretty good. I would have gone with game, but if you want to stick with the first half.
It is for 2 points, Tony. Some of us remember that this is for 2 points, and it is supposed to be bold. Yeah, I tried to look at real outlier games where they really just completely shut down the opponent and and have huge blow up first halves. And outside of complete outlier games like Michigan State, this would be a pretty big historical outlier. So 250 yard outgaining Indiana in the first half.
How many times have they done that this year?
I have not gone back and counted. I can look at. Let's see. I'm just trying to think of games where that might have happened.
Michigan State, maybe, if I pull that up here real quick.
Yeah, you pull up Michigan State. I'll pull up. I don't know.
We could have done this pre.
We could have, but then it spoils the surprise.
So they were OSU outgained Michigan State by 155 yards in the first quarter. And then in the second quarter, by like another 140 yards. So they definitely did that against Michigan State. So, Tom, if I'm going to allow this, because Ohio State has already done it once this year, and you didn't like my 3 quarters of 3 yards per play because Michigan had done it. Is this where we have a détente here? Do we agree that each of these is worth 2 and we'll stop with the fighting?
Or you could go for either the 2.5 or the 4 quarters, and I will go to 300 yards in the first quarter or first half. First quarter would be a lot. First half.
I kind of like the first quarter, but
you go from 3 to 2.5. I'll go from 250 to 300.
Or I go to all 4 for 3. Okay, so you're saying IU by 300 for 2. There's a lot of numbers, Tom. And I am saying IU under 3 yards per play in all 4 quarters for 3. Both unlikely to happen. But, all right, I think that will work. And now Again, the stakes are very high. If we didn't mention it, we got a road game coming up after this week, so probably should have been more arguing and bickering. But, kudos to us for being adults about this for a change. And so I feel like I'm getting the shorter end of the stick here. But, of course, I'm talking about a 3-pointer. You're talking about a 2-pointer. I should.
Well, then that's fine. Then your other one is going to be a 2-pointer. That's fine.
Correct. So I guess I will go with my 2-pointer then. CJ Stroud accounts for 6 touchdowns or more.
So here's my 3-pointer, and you tell me which one of us is being more bold here. CJ Stroud sets the Ohio State single-game passing record with 7 touchdown passes throwing. So, Tony, to me, it feels like yours is about a 1.5-pointer, because I'm saying 7 throwing, which has literally never been done in the history of Ohio State football. How many times has CJ Stroud accounted for 6 touchdowns this year or in his career? Feels like he's done that about 6 times.
Here's the thing, Tom. That was going to be. I had 7 touchdowns as my 3-pointer, but we had to remove that one because you weren't happy with my 2-pointer that has almost literally never happened before. He has accounted for 6 touchdowns once this year, and that was 6 touchdown passes. So if you want, we can change accounted to passing. Yeah, I mean, that is still the school record. 6 touchdown passes is still the...
If you want to go 6 passing touchdowns for 2, and I'll go 7 passing touchdowns for 3. I don't like it because I thought this would be one where I have a real chance to make a significant difference, and now I'm only gaining 1 point if it does happen, but I suppose I'm sort of stuck, so I guess I have to. How about this? Meet me in the middle. CJ Stroud 6.5 touchdown passes for at least 6.5. Doesn't have to be exactly 6.5.
Now, when you say half touchdown pass, I'm thinking you lead the team. The pass before a field goal is, that's that you've thrown a pass and then you kick a field goal because you're short. That to me is like a half of a touchdown. If you want to do that, I'm still not going to do that because I don't know that they're going to be kicking too many field goals. They want to get in the end zone. Tom, I think we've come to a grand conclusion here. And the worst of this is if you actually hit a 3-pointer and it only really counts 1 for you, that's just the worst.
That's going to be still real annoying. Really annoying.
It would be. The thing about this is you want the joy of hitting a 3-pointer. And it happens so rarely. And when it does, it's like, yeah, this is awesome. Except for you, Tom. If it happens, well, I'll tell you what. Once he's thrown his 6th, you'll be so angry, then you're going to be rooting for that 7th. So you'll still get that same kind of joy because it'll rob me of 2 points. So there you go. That's a way to make it good and happy, is that it will shoot down my lead and then boom, you're right up there. So don't feel so bad about it.
It would be, it does set me up for a dramatic come from behind victory, and you for a dramatic come from ahead cotting, which, really, and Tony, I will remind you, this is a 2-nighter, so you will have to spend another, because right now the score is on these trips, the score is, I believe, 4 nights to 0, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's this could be, you could clinch the pre-bowl cot of the cot of shame trophy if you do it this week. So
the problem, Tom, is that the second night, I won the Northwestern, so I shouldn't have had that second night on the cot of shame because I had won. That's no way to celebrate a victory. Well,
if we had talked about that beforehand, we could have changed the rules to make them work that way. But that's not how the rules work, Tony. It is per trip. I didn't make the rules.
Didn't we?
Yeah, I was part of making the rules, but I wasn't the only one. I didn't solely make the rules. So really, this is your fault.
That is true. In one way or another, it is definitely my fault, whether it's allowing... Oh, Tom, we didn't do our easy bold predictions for each other.
We sure didn't. All right.
Okay, I could throw one to you, Tom. See how you feel about this one. Tommy Eichenberg has at least 3 tackles.
And then for you, Tony, Indiana does not block a punt.
I don't like this. And I'll tell you why I don't like this, Tom. I don't know how many punts Indiana has blocked this year, but I was talking with our buddy Marcus Hartman the other day, and he was like, the snaps aren't getting back there as much as good as they used to when Bradley Robinson was snapping. And now that you're telling me this, Tom, I'm like, oh gosh, I think you've just guaranteed a blocked punt.
I thought about that 3 seconds before I said it, so I have not. This is not me being diabolical, and I'm gonna look and see if they have if they list blocked punts. I mean, Indiana has been, in fairness, terrible at literally everything this year, so I don't think that they've been really good at blocked punts. I don't see blocked punts in their stats, but I'm going to guess that they have not because they're bad at everything.
That's fine. And again, if I just miss out on that one point, again, I feel like I've gone really low with the Tommy Eichenberg. I should have gone higher, but trying to be friendly. What is too high?
When is the last time Ohio State had a punt blocked? 2016?
It could happen at literally any moment.
Well, yes. I mean,
they're due.
That's true of just about everything in football. So
Mount St. Helens was never going to blow. When was the last time it blew? And then boom, all of the coots there in 1980, so they had to deal with that. But it's, oh man, but that is why we have this kind of a little friendly bold prediction for each other, because when it doesn't hit, it's just the absolute worst. And then you can gloat and reverse gloat. And I don't even know if that's actually legal in most states. Anyway, Tom,
I'm already excited to pick Blake Corum runs for under 313 yards against Ohio State. I'm already excited for how angry that is going to make people. And dibs on that one, by the way.
Oh, you can have that one, Tom. Although I don't know, maybe make it 340. Let's just be safe. All right. Anything else? I think we've got it done. I think we've gotten it here, and we'll go ahead and I'll throw this up on the Buckeye Huddle message board and invite all of the posters to include their own bold predictions and compete against us. The winner at the end of the season will have a fabulous prize of an unknown origin, but we do have some ideas. We got some stuff in the works, so that will be fun. So if you're not yet a member at BuckeyeHuddle.com, please join. Hit us up on the message board, say hello, let us know why you got there and what you think. And also find us at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle for videos like this, live interviews, streams, all kinds of things. Plenty to do there, so hit that bell to be notified. Go ahead and subscribe. And if you're watching right now, go ahead and hit the like this video. We would appreciate that. So that will do it for today. That will do it for Bold Predictions. Thank you all for joining us, and we will talk to you guys later.